Hey, I'm Doc, and I'm the host of the Midnight Chronicles podcast. I'm joined today by my new co-hosts, Luke and Zane. Guys, welcome to the Midnight Chronicles.
What's up, Doc?
Thanks, Doc.
No problem, guys. It's really cool to have you here, and now that we've restructured the show, guys, tonight's topic is shadow people.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I know, Luke, you've had experiences with shadow people before.
Absolutely have. Yep. I didn't fully understand what they were until you and I had that discussion, I guess. But
Yeah.
without question.
Yeah. Shadow people, they are they've been reported for thousands of years now. And what they're reported to be is just like out of the your peripheral vision, you'll see a shadow person kind of duck in and out of somewhere, or like you, Luke, you were talking about how you saw one peek out from behind a tree and then just take off. So they've been reported for thousands of years. So would you, Luke, would you like to go into what you experienced with one of these beings?
Yeah. So the one that I've had a couple of smaller ones too, but the one that really sticks out in my mind is I was coming out from a hunt. It was a heavily wooded area in a river bottom down by the Red River south of Moorhead, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And it was dark. And I was walking out, and it was thickly, densely wooded.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of on one of the only paths that kind of ran through there. And off to my left, zip past me. It was like a black figure. The only way I know how to describe it is it looked almost like a flowing bed sheet, but it went like straight line and faster than any animal I could think of, especially like your mind immediately goes to maybe like a white-tailed deer running through the woods in the dark, but that is absolutely not what it was.
Yeah.
This thing was fluid motion, straight line through the woods, and it passed me about 20 yards on my left, and it went up, and it went behind this tree that was kind of directly in front of me about 30 yards or so. And I walked a little closer and off to the right, and just trying to see around the tree, like what the hell was that, And,
Yeah.
And as I'm veering off to the right, trying to get a better look at what the hell this thing is, it looks like like somebody peeking out from behind a tree, like a peekaboo type of thing.
Yeah.
And I took a couple of steps closer, and the thing just off in the opposite direction. I mean, like lightning, gone. And you could watch. It was like a flowing bed sheet type of thing. But what was peeking out from behind the tree looked like the figure of a person, and you could actually see like
Yeah.
It was just creepy as hell. And until you and I discussed it, actually, I always just kind of chalked it up as creepy crawly, whatever. I mean, I never really knew what to think of it.
Yeah.
And you actually sent me a picture that was a pretty close representation to that. And
Yeah,
it actually kind of gave me the willies when he sent it to me, because it was damn near exactly what I saw, only on the opposite side of the tree.
Yeah.
So
could you make a face out, or was it just a figure?
Just a figure, absolutely just a figure. There was no features, no nothing. It was just like you're watching,
just
like a shadow, right?
Just an outline.
But it was darker than a shadow.
Hmm.
For me, it was like watching, like I said, a black. When it passed me on the left, it looked like a black bed sheet flowing through the woods. I mean,
yeah.
And then the whatever was peeking out around the tree was black. It wasn't a shadow, like per se, like you see my shadow on my chest, or from the light. You know what I mean? It was black, and I've thought about that off and on a lot over the years, and never really knew what to attribute it to. I know the area where I was traveling out of, years past, there were vagrants and homeless people and stuff that had died down in that area and stuff too. So
Okay.
I mean, the thought of like a ghost crossed my mind, right, or something of that nature. But obviously the blackness of it was what struck me,
Yeah. I was gonna ask too, when, because you said you've been out there hunting, before that, did you notice, like a change in the environment? Like, was there like just the wildlife kind of like go quiet, or what did you like before that?
Yeah, actually, so everything kind of went pitch quiet. Nothing. I mean, there
Yeah.
wasn't crickets, there wasn't anything.
Okay.
And what even made it doubly as creepy was, like I said, it's right on the edge of the Red River, and there's kind of a temperature change that day, which is part of the reason why I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of excited to be out hunting. It's usually a pretty good time, and there was like a thick fog, like kind of on the floor of the woods next to the river.
Okay.
And this happened in the midst of that thick fog on the floor of the woods, and that's part of what creeped me out about it too. I remember it was like something from a like something from a cheesy movie, I would say, but it was absolutely real,
Very cool. Zane, do you have any
yeah.
questions for him?
No, I'm just listening to the story here, and I've never heard this story actually, so it's kind of interesting to hear. But usually I've heard all stories, but yeah, no, that's pretty interesting.
Yep. So that was when I was I think about 19 years old, something like that. 18 or 19.
Okay.
So was there any wildlife at all that day, or is it just dead?
Yeah, there was some random does that came through and stuff, but
they didn't act nervous or spooked or
nope. And it was one of those situations where you probably could have gotten up and walked around. I don't think you would have spooked the deer really either. It was just
calm.
They were calm.
Yeah,
they were calm. There was nothing pushing them. I mean, it's an area that's definitely not hunted. And obviously, aside from me, it was kind of a pocket in the river basin that I had found that nobody really went to, and yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
They were was that in the morning or the evening, or I'm assuming the morning?
Nope, that was night.
Oh, it was night. No kidding.
And that was night. I went in and did a sit until it was past dark. I probably stayed there longer than I should have because you keep thinking like, okay, I saw a couple of does. Well, I don't want to spook anything on my way out, so you sit there way longer than you probably should have in the first place. But, and this was like before cell phone cameras really took off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it was a real heavy moonlight, and I was walking out, and I didn't even have a flashlight. But I had a decent path in and out of there, so that there wasn't a problem traveling or whatever. But this thing, whatever it was, that passed me up on my left and did that. It came through like some of the thickest shit in the woods, and it was like, like I said, like I attribute a whitetail to be one of the fastest animals in this part of the country in thick, densely wooded areas, aside from Zane's mom. And and this is faster than any deer.
I knew you were going to sneak that in there somewhere. I knew that.
I was actually waiting to get in with one of those, but I was waiting for you to get serious about things and jump in.
I saw your wheels turning, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this thing was straight line fluid motion, and it was faster than any animal that I've experienced in the woods, especially through terrain like that. So,
where did it go after the tree?
So after the tree, so I moved off the path to the right, moving around the tree, trying to see where it had gone, and I got to the point just where I thought I was going to be able to like peek around to see, and it did like one more of those little quick peak things, and then I saw it go woof, just off in straight opposite direction of what I was facing.
Okay.
So it would have been from my original orientation, it would have been probably straight left, or straight north, I guess.
How far off the ground was it? Was it basically just like eye level, or was it higher?
Well, eye level for me and you are two totally different things, right? My eye level to you is like belt buckle level, But yeah, I mean, it was probably 3-4 feet off the ground.
Okay.
And the peekaboo around the tree, I mean, it looked, the height of an average person, I think,
Right.
absolutely was not a person, without question. I mean, absolute no way. It made zero sound on top of it, you know.
Right.
I would have been
Which, if it was a human or any other animal or anything like that, I mean, you would have heard sticks and brush breaking and snapping and, you know, all kinds of stuff, and it was absolutely silent.
Really? So it didn't make any like stick snaps? It didn't move?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Grass didn't move, nothing like that.
Wow. Absolutely nothing. And the other part of it too is, like I said, there was like a thick fog, foot and a half up on the floor on the floor of the woods, and
yeah,
that didn't even waft anywhere, you know.
Yeah. Did this scare you out of the woods at all, or did it?
Oh yeah. I thankfully I had enough composure to, like, use some sense walking out of there without hurting myself. But I got out of there pretty much as fast as I could. You bet your ass. Yeah.
Did this detract you from doing any more hunting after that? Or at least in that area, did it keep you in that area?
You're damn right I never went back down there. And typically, I mean, if it's a place I'm familiar with and I know it well, that likely wouldn't have even scared me off of it. But It was a new place, it was unfamiliar, and it was so far off the beaten path. It was to me, it was, being scared shitless like that, and then the amount of time and effort you spend getting back there, for me, it was like, not even worth it,
Yeah.
I'll go sit on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was the first person that you told this to after this happened?
It'd be my friend Joe Olson at the time. Just a handful of people that I knew,
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you don't want to ever come across as being, untruthful or something. So it's not something that I told everybody I saw or something like that, because it's if somebody came to me and told me that story, I'd have been like, "Hey, you're full of shit," So I get that aspect of it too, but I experienced this, and it was very real, and just so, aside from a few close friends and stuff, I was just kind of kept it to myself,
Yeah. Well, I'll be the first to say this. I think you're full of shit. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding. I'm just busting your balls a little bit. But no, I believe that I believe that you experienced this, and is there any history of other people experiencing something like this in that area?
I mean, you hear of stuff, but the stuff that you hear about is usually closer into town, like Gooseberry Park and Moorhead. That's a pretty a site that's pretty well known down in there for, like, a lot of homeless people have died down in that spot, and stuff like that. But where I was quite a way south of that, out of city limits, so I've not heard anything about that particular area.
Okay.
On this bend in the river that I don't even think most people even know it's up in there. It's like a big peninsula,
Yeah.
So
yeah, the shadow people is a very interesting subject, because so many people over hundreds of years have reported to see these things, and they usually, people will report them when it comes to sleep paralysis, where in cases of sleep paralysis, is usually when they'll report them. But I mean, you see them in every walk of life. I mean, you see them in like old abandoned asylums, you see them in old abandoned prisons, and people see them in their bedrooms. And there's one that is commonly reported, and he is known as the Hat Man. And
the Hat Man.
Hat Man, yeah. And he's known to have some sort of a hat on, a top hat, or some sort of a cowboy hat or something like that. and he is commonly reported. And but the thing about shadow people is that they're also reported to be kind of benign. You know, like my mom actually had an encounter with them, and she was walking home from a job that she had, and it was late one night, and she told me that she was pretty much escorted home and was protected by two shadow people. And so they're known to be benign, but then again, they're also known to be very negative. You know, people feel very negative about them. And then a lot of times they're also just kind of be in between, you know, like the gray area between black and white. So, you know, the shadow people, you know, it just I have no idea what to make of them. I've never seen one myself, but what do you make of it, Zane?
I'm just trying to figure out if it's an illusion or if it's a spirit or what it is. A lot of all this stuff is new. You know, when new to me, when we talked last week, I never thought a lot about this until we started talking about it, and then some of our experiences. So some of this is new, so I'm just kind of sitting back and soaking it all in, and then waiting to get in and ask a few questions. But what
just
do you...
just to give viewers a little bit of a context here, so we have kind of three levels of
yeah, we're all not the same people here. We're
right. So
totally different
people, Doc is full on believer. You know, as far as a lot of things go, I think, and very open minded. I'm kind of on the fence with a lot of things, and very open minded also. And
I've had a couple experiences, where I'm a believer in some things, but you know, like I told Doc last week, or even you, you know, we started talking about this, and I'm going to ask questions, and I don't mean to be a dick, but I'll call somebody out if I think it's bullshit, and just prove me wrong. You know, that's all I ask. Just prove me wrong, and I'll believe. But I'm still on that one side of the fence. I mean, I believe there's things out there, but some things I think are make me believe. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. All right, and that's why you're here as a co-host.
And Zane and I are both pretty avid outdoorsmen, and you know, a lot of stuff that we talk about, you know, we tend to have kind of a logical thought as far as from the point of view of an outdoorsman. You know, which is also helpful in discussing some of the things that we intend to talk about. But
well, you know, and I don't believe people are making all this up, and I'm not calling Doc full of shit on any of his stuff. I mean, it's something that he's got experience in and he knows a lot about, and I don't know nothing about. So I want to get educated about it, and I like hearing stories. You know, whether it's gory stories or stories that scare the shit out of you, or happy stories. So
stories about your mom.
Yeah,
those two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you're here. That's why you guys are my new co-hosts. Zane, you're more of the voice of reason, whereas Luke, you're more kind of open-minded to more of this, and then I'm also very knowledgeable about this because I am a former paranormal investigator, and I've experienced these things and many more things that we'll talk about on this podcast. So, you know, that's why I appreciate you guys being here, because we give, you know, we're not only busting each other's balls, but at the same time, we come from different aspects of thought that we all have a different perspective on whatever it is that we're talking about. And so, like I said, today is Shadow People, and Luke, you're familiar with the Hat Man. What do you know about the Hat Man?
Yeah, so I have a friend, Zane actually knows him, JR.
Yep.
Okay, well, he actually had an experience not far from where you live, Doc. He lived just outside of Nashville. And
did he die? Oh, there he is. He's back.
I'm here.
He tipped over. I was hoping he didn't pass out or die. We got our hope back. We're good.
So JR and his wife are
grabbing a drink.
JR and his wife are over the road truckers, and they're home for like a week every 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah. And there came a point in time where he started seeing the Hat Man, so to speak, right? And
okay, yeah.
And that's kind of how things started for him, and it actually spiraled from there for him. They had things like heat ducts in their house pop up out of the floor randomly, or and the guy actually has some video of some of this stuff too, and
yeah,
because if JR would tell you a story, you kind of go, yeah. JR
right.
was kind of, from what I know, JR, he was kind of full of shit half the time, but
yeah. But this he got serious with me enough and told it enough times that I started like, well, maybe he's seeing something, I don't know. And so it actually spiraled out onto a whole other thing, and he started seeing other stuff around his house, and it got to him a little bit. Like, no joke, he got a little bit he got a little bit left of center for a little while on account of it.
Okay.
And left of center for him, right?
Yeah.
But it was pretty profound. I mean, I've known him for long as I've known Zane, I think, and I questioned it, and then his wife actually kind of backed a lot of it up too, which was also strange because she would no, different wife.
Oh.
Yeah. She would call it if it was bullshit, and she has talked about it, I guess. So if they basically felt like they had like a full on haunting in their house, and they had like a preacher come out and try to cleanse the house kind of thing and whatever, and he said this Hat Man, and he didn't call it the Hat Man. He said it was like a tall black figure with a flat brimmed hat on. So that's kind of what rang a bell when you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And he said it seemed like that thing was the conductor of it all, I guess.
Yeah.
And he'd show up, and then something weird would happen, or something scary would happen, or whatever. And they ended up moving to Texas, just to kind of be free of the situation, and not only has his mental situation improved since they moved, but their new house, they also don't experience anything like that. So when it originally all started, he thought it was his neighbors, and loaded his guns and sat in his backyard waiting for the neighbors to show up, kind of thing, because he thought that's who was fucking with him, and it ended up spiraling into something more for him, I think, and what was sad was I think he lost most of his friends in the process too, because obviously, people, you're full of shit kind of thing. And I've always just been the type to just kind of hear people out and listen, and just a stark difference between, when they lived there to the minute they moved into their new house. He was like completely different. He was better, and it was just like a weight off his shoulders kind of thing.
Well, that has to really weigh on your mental state. That would,
I'm sure it does.
If I had stuff like that happen with me every single day, I'd be kind of going half kooky too, I think. But
right, and if everybody knows calling you crazy, and
begin to think it.
And you're not sleeping on account of it, and I mean, I can definitely understand that, and so, but like I said, that being said, once they moved, it was like instantaneous difference, and the guy, it was like boom, he was better, it was done,
like night and day, pretty much.
But if you talk to him and you happen to bring it up, he gets real serious with you, and his answer to that is you better get into the Bible kind of thing, he thinks it's demons, was what his take on it was.
A lot of people that experience this sort of stuff, they do suffer pretty much what is post-traumatic stress, pretty much after dealing with something like that, and then you have your anyone that you think you can turn to try to reach out for help. People are pretty much dismissive of it, and they're they'll call you crazy, or they'll laugh at you and they'll snicker at you, when you're actually dealing with something very serious in your house, that is terrorizing you, it's terrorizing your family, it's terrorizing your kids, and nobody knows where to look, for help, and and people that that have gone through this, sort of thing, they, like I said, they do suffer from what's like post-traumatic stress, PTSD, after dealing with something like this.
And I'm not gonna lie, initially when he talked to me about it, it got to the point where finally I was like, I hung up the phone with him one time thinking to myself, like, God dang, JR is out to lunch, them hits of acid he did in the 70s are finally catching up with him, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But then his wife started like correlating a lot of it, and it got worse and worse and worse, and it got to the point where I honestly thought he was losing his shit, and and the minute they moved, it was like back to normal.
Yep.
So it definitely wasn't some kind of a mental illness breakdown kind of thing. I don't think. I mean, maybe perhaps on account of what he's experiencing, but that was what struck me as so profound about it was the fact that the minute they moved, he was fine and it stopped happening.
Yeah, and that's the way it happens. Because I used to live in a very very haunted paranormal house. Very very haunted, and I don't like talking about it, but I'm pretty sure that the forces in that house contributed to my dad's suicide. And yeah, he committed suicide in that house, and I think that the forces in that house actually contributed to that. But and I would notice that too. Whenever I would step into that house, I felt very oppressed. I felt like my mind was clouded, and it wanted to keep me there, for whatever reason. But as soon as I stepped out and went back home, everything was fine. I felt fine. I felt I felt okay, and so I can understand that, what you're saying about your friend is, as soon as he got out of that environment, it was like night and day, and it was pretty much the same thing with me as well, with that property. If I were to step foot in there and just spend the night, it felt like my mind was clouded. It felt like something, I didn't feel like myself, and then as soon as I stepped out of that and went back home, everything was okay.
Zane, it's been a lot of years, but you've been down to that farmstead in Pelican that I own.
Yep.
So, do you recall when you were there at all, just having like a heavy feeling in the air, almost like there was a funk,
when I walked by the house.
Yeah. Yep.
Once I got past the house, I was fine.
Yep. So most of the people that I've taken down there have experienced that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I took Casey from Intundra. Actually, I took him down there today and showed him kind of where I grew up and whatever. And the minute he got out of the pickup, you could tell like his hair was standing on him, like he's stiff as a board, and it just weirded him out, and that was the word that he used to describe it, was heavy. He just said you could feel it. It was heavy, bad juju, he said, kind of thing. And I know exactly what he's talking about. I think I may be just a little more used to that place and that feeling than maybe most people, but but it definitely plays on to what you're saying. I mean, there's definitely, you can feel it,
Yeah. It's like I mean, when you say the word heavy, like it feels heavy, it's like I think a lot of people would get the impression that it means that it feels heavy, but it's like walking through soup. Kind of like, like
it's like
thick.
the air is heavier the air is thicker to breathe.
It's that kind of Amityville horror type of thing where there's just something going on that eventually, not to bring up your father again, but obviously there was something that was.
It was very negative.
But not necessarily talking to him, just a negative energy in there that kind of made him lose it, just like in the movie. And I can get that. I really could. I mean, I'm married and I'm about ready to. That's about as big a demon as I want in my house as my wife. So
3'6".
Yeah.
No, I don't mean like by the subject with his dad, but yeah, no, I'm following along and just kind of putting pieces together to maybe if somebody listening doesn't understand, kind of put it together as back in Amityville horror, where not necessarily there was anybody talking, but it was just there was a bad feeling in there that just drove somebody to do bad things.
Yeah, it just felt negative and oppressive. It just felt it would affect your mood as soon as you stepped in there. Like you just knew that there's something bad there. And as soon as you stepped in the house, you knew that there was something not right. And it just you felt the heaviness, and like I was talking with you, Luke, you just felt like you were walking through soup. It was hard to breathe. And you just felt something very just negative. It was just so easy. Yeah, it was so easy to get angry about anything. Like something would happen and you just felt so easy to get angry. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter what it was, and you may have spilt your drink and you just felt like you were in a rage, for no reason, and just felt negative. You felt like you didn't need to be there. It just very, very easy to. It just felt like you just didn't need to be there. Like. So I don't know.
And this farmstead in particular, like, it's a 140-year-old farmstead. It was farmsteaded by my great grandfather in 1883. And allegedly there's some Native American graves down in there, stuff like that. And
that's nothing to mess with either.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had people that talked about, the feeling they got when they went there, or, what their take on it was. But today was the first time, like when I took Casey, there was the first time I really saw it like profoundly affect somebody to the point where he got out of the pickup and I was like, what the, you know what I mean? And
did you notice relax? Did you notice I never went in the house when we were there?
Yeah.
I went completely around the house. I won't even go near it.
Yep. And he felt that way he didn't relax until we left, and then we got back here and stopped by, and he was actually telling my wife about how creeped out it made him feel, and he was describing what it felt like, and he just kept coming back to the word heavy, and so I absolutely get that.
Yep. It's usually described that way. And I've been in other haunted supposedly haunted establishments, and every single one of them I've been in, it does have that heavy feeling, and like I've said several times on this podcast, it feels like you're walking through soup. It's like that the air is so heavy. It's not like humidity, like, because like I would say the same thing about humidity, but if it was really humid, you feel like you're walking through soup, but it's not like that. It feels, you just get that feeling about it, you know, and you just know that something is not right, you know, and you get that feeling in the back of your head. It feels like you need to get out, like right now, and you need to leave, you know, and that's the way it feels.
I mean, Casey kind of equated it to being walking through a cemetery, you know.
Yeah.
And he said every once in a while you get that strange feeling when you're at a cemetery and it's just heavy and you just feel dreadful almost, you know.
Yeah.
And that's that. I would say, you know, like I said, I'm a little more maybe more used to it down there than most, but I think that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you just feel on edge for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
You ever felt that, Zane, or do you have any comments?
I don't, you know, I'll be honest, I've never felt that. I actually was kind of curious how that house that you lived in, were you guys in it your whole life, or was it just for a short amount of time?
So we moved there
I
meant
Doc. I'm sorry, not you, Doc.
Oh, we moved in there. Yeah, we moved in there when originally I'm from Northern Virginia, and we moved in there at the beginning of 2017, I think. We were moving down here. I wanted to kind of come down here with my father to because the music industry is down here, and you guys know I'm in the music industry. So that, you know, Nashville was here, but yeah, we moved in here, moved in there at the beginning of end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and I knew as soon as I walked in there. I mean, like I've been talking with Luke about. As soon as I walked in there, I knew that something was not right, and it had been confirmed to us that somebody had passed away in the house before we even moved to there. That's the reason that the house wasn't occupied, was because its previous owner had passed away.
Right.
And they passed away right in the living room. So yeah, we moved in there at the beginning of 2017, and the last resident was my mother, and she moved out last year after my dad passed away.
How long did she stay in it after that? After your dad passed away, not very long, I would imagine.
No, she was out, I think, by August. My dad had committed suicide in March.
Okay.
So yeah.
So like
I've never had referring to. I know you grew up in that house in Pelican Rapids, didn't you, Luke?
Yeah. Yeah, we moved there when I was 1, and I think we moved out, you know, when I was 9 or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it's been in the family ever since, you know, and I had an aunt and uncle that lived there for a little while, and then my grandpa and, you know, 3 of his boys lived there until not long ago. My grandpa passed away in 2000, and then the boys stayed there until a few years ago. And then one of them ended up with stomach cancer and stuck it out there as long as he could, basically. But it ended up being where the house just wasn't really fit to live in anymore. But that being said, though, this is also, to my knowledge, would be, I think, the 4th house that's been on that place.
Okay.
So there was, there was the original log cabin. Right, there was the original log cabin, which I recently found the spot where it was, which is really cool. And then there was a nice big farmhouse that was built there at one point and then burned down. And then there was a trailer house type of setup at one point, and then the house that's there now was moved there in like the 1960s.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
And that would have been the house I seen when I was there, correct?
Yep. Right. Yeah. Right. Yep. So for me, I don't know that it necessarily, in my mind, has anything specifically to do with the house.
Yeah.
for me,
I think it more has to do with the burial sites, the Indian burial sites, than anything.
Yeah, there's that, and there's been a lot of other shit that's gone down there over the years too. I mean, you know, so I think it's just that area in general has just had, so much shit go down over the years, and I think it's just, like I say, I attribute it to there's just a funk there,
Yeah.
And so, damn good deer hunting though.
There you go. Yeah, with the property that I was staying at, it was a farmhouse that was over 100 years old, and there was a lot of history that had gone down there. I mean, you had like moonshining people that were going on back in the woods and all that. I had actually a Bigfoot sighting there. I actually saw a Bigfoot there, and they were pretty regularly experienced on the property. They would come up to the house, and they would stomp around on the porch, or you'd be out there trying to do some weed eating or some sort of like mowing the lawn or something, or you'd be grilling out on the porch, and they would be snapping branches and throwing things at you. You'd throw in pine cones and rocks and whatever. And I was, there were a few times I was trying to like talk to like some girls, trying to, get a date with some girls. I'd be out on the porch talking with them, and I kept getting rocks thrown at me, and like I actually had to end a few conversations because I kept getting rocks thrown at me, and like they get bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point that I'm just like, okay, if one of these actually hits me, it's gonna hurt me. It's like I have to go inside now, and so I have to end the phone conversations, and all that, and a few of them actually heard some of the limb breaks. And like I moved out of that house, and my dad would tell me every time I called him, he's like, "Yeah, they're breaking the sticks out here. They're breaking the branches or whatever." And you go back there and you'd see branches that were broken like 9 feet, 10 feet in the air. It's like, what in the world?
It's funny you bring that up. I leave for Montana Friday morning. I'm going out to see my uncle, and we're gonna go elk hunting, and he'll call me up and go, "Yep, just seen Bigfoot."
Yeah.
For the first 10 phone calls, I'm going, "Yeah, okay, uncle, go back to bed." But he goes, "No," and matter of fact, he had his one of his coworkers with. He works for the state, and he said, "Yeah," and he goes, "They run across the road all the time and jump the guardrail and down a mountain or up the mountain or whatever."
Yep.
And forever I thought he was full of shit, so I called him out on it, and he goes, "No," and he goes, "We're being dead serious."
Yeah.
So he talks about Bigfoot like it's no big deal, and he actually looks at me like I'm an idiot for not believing him.
Yeah.
Right.
There are areas of the country that that Bigfoot is I mean, there are areas of the country where it's no question. It's like you're an idiot for not believing it. It's like,
Doc, let me ask you this: the place you're describing, were there bears
in my area?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there occasionally, yeah, but yeah, not
okay.
Yeah, not very often. You wouldn't experience them.
I mean, I'm not saying bears are going to throw rocks or whatever, but
yeah, they don't do that. Yeah.
But when I have seen like 9-10 feet up in a tree where, a bear was up and actually broke sticks on the way up or down or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And that goes from being an outdoorsman of the noises that you hear and the things that you may see. We may hear it, we just may never look for it because we're used to hearing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've never heard a bear whistle, and that's what you would hear a lot out there at nighttime. You would hear whistling. It'd be a very high pitch whistling sound, and just a very
Can you describe that? sound a little better? Like
just a very high pitched whistling sound. Sound kind of, it'd be so high pitched that sometimes it would be like uncomfortable to hear. Sometimes, like it would like kind of hurt your ears a little bit.
Like a whistle, or a whistle from a person.
Like
I'm
a like a
the noise,
whistle.
the pitch, the noise. I mean,
The
more of a whistle. Okay.
Yeah, more of a whistle. Yeah, and it just I would whistle back to it sometimes, and I would get a response. And sometimes I
would
would
it
get
mimic at all?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it would. Like it would usually be like a straight pitch. And then if I were to whistle back to it and do something that was a little different from its pattern or whatever, it actually sometimes would mimic me, and whistle back to me that same um melody or whatever you want to call it, that same pattern that I would use. But yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes it would be so high pitch it would actually hurt your ears.
Okay.
And like you and I used to go out to smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore, but that's when I would hear it, is late at night when I was out there smoking a cigarette, and I'd hear it, and it'd be out in the wilderness, in the wild, in the forest, and I'd hear it out there, and sometimes I would whistle back to it just to see if it would, like I said, mimic, and it would. It would mimic what I just done, and I never could explain that, and
did you ever seek it out?
No, because I did kind of do that. Like I walked out into the field because the woods we had a field behind there, and there was a barn that was out there that had broken down farm machinery in there, and I would walk out there, but no, I would never go back into the woods. It's just too far.
Okay.
I would have went right back to the damn house again. There's no way I would have sat out there and listened to it.
Yeah, I mean, it interested me, but I didn't really put much thought into it. I was just out there to smoke a cigarette, and then I wanted to go back inside. So,
see, for me in the middle of the woods, like my shadow person experience, yeah, I beat feet and got the hell out of there, right? But if I'm at my place, or even my place in Pelican, if I hear a sound that I, or have experiences like that, I mean, I'm the type I would seek it out, just because in my mind I need to clear that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't, but just at that time I just didn't think to do that, and sometimes, sometimes I just would whistle back to it just to see if it would replicate what I was trying to do, if it was intelligent, or if it, and so I would whistle out to it, whistle something, like a, just something random, and yeah, it would replicate it sometimes. Not every time, but it would do it sometimes.
So when you did that, did it ever get closer?
Yeah. I would hear footsteps, and they were bipedal footsteps, and they would it was weird too, because you get whistling from one direction, whereas when it was trying to like approach you, you would get bipedal footsteps from two different directions. Like
more than one out there.
Yeah. So you get some to my left and right. So you get something like it would be whistling from one end of the property, and then when they would go to get close, you get footsteps from two directions. So there's more than one out there. Yeah.
Do you think they were friendly, or do you think they were trying to scare you, or do you think they were just messing with you? Do you think they were trying to communicate with you and actually interact?
I think they were trying to communicate. I think they were curious,
Right.
But then the next night after that, you get stomping on our porch, like just something just raising hell, out on the porch, and I never went outside to go see what was going on, because obviously something that heavy that is like tearing apart your what sounds like it's tearing apart your your porch. I wasn't gonna go out there, but then you go out there and you find like the porch table, or some the some of the porch chairs would be thrown out into the front yard or whatnot, and
were there ever any tracks?
Yes, there was one track
Okay.
in the front yard, and I was gonna get a picture of it, but my brother messed it up before I could get a picture of it, and it looked like if I were to say it would be a juvenile. It was a smaller track, not like 14, 16 inches or 18 inches or what they're reported to be when it comes to Sasquatch, but it was about, I'd say about 6 or 7. Yeah, about 6 or 7, maybe 8 inches.
So, like more the size of items you'd find in Zane's mom's bedroom.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Probably her dildo. Yeah, something like that.
Not so brown, Luke.
But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, and then I actually saw one. And I was on I don't know if you guys are familiar with Vic Cundiff or no, Dogman Encounters Radio.
Not. Nope.
Nope. Okay. Yeah, he does a podcast called Bigfoot Eyewitness, and I was episode 91 on there, and I talked about my experience where I actually saw one of these things, where I had been sitting out on the porch with my dad, and we had like a salmon dinner. Like, he'd cooked salmon out on the grill and all that, and it was really good. And my dad and I just been sitting out there catching up. I didn't live there at that point, and just stopped by, just have a dinner with my dad and catch up, and I've been hearing limbs breaking in the background, over my shoulder, the entire time. And then I turned around, there was one massive limb crack, and it was about 9:30 at night, and 8:30, something like that. I don't remember now. But I turned around, and the moon was out really bright that night, and I turned around and I saw this thing running down the road, and I thought it was a person initially. I thought, and turned around, just saw it running down the road, and it darted into these shadows, and that were casted because there was trees across the road, and they were casting a shadow over it, and over the road, so it darted into those shadows. And I'm like, okay, this thing is going to take about a minute or whatever. It's going to take maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes to run that fast to get to the, to where it'll break from the shadows. It didn't take that long. This thing was fast. It was fast. I mean, this thing broke from the shadows, and I saw it. It was a big, bulky looking thing. I mean, like I said in the initial report, it looked like somebody that had a fat suit on, but it wasn't fat. It was just bulky, and its arms were down to its knees, and it didn't get its height from its legs. It got its height from its upper torso. Like it had big stocky legs, but they weren't. That's not where it gets its height from. It was about 8 to 9 feet tall, and it didn't get its height from its legs, and it got it from its upper torso, and just swayed back and forth like it was trying to get a good look at me. And I'm shouting at my dad. I'm like, it's standing right there. It's right there. My dad's like, I can't see it. Where is it? It's right there. It's right there. And
what color was it?
I couldn't tell. I mean, it was late at night. I just saw the silhouette. It was late at night, and I saw the silhouette underneath the moonlight.
So
black. And when I initially saw it, it was white. But I think yeah, it was white. When I initially saw it, it was white.
Where my mind takes me with that is, the long torso, short legs. Bear comes to mind, right? Because at a distance, like black bear, especially, they'll stand on their hind legs, right? And if they're trying to get a better look, they'll actually sway, and that swaying actually not only gives them a different point of view, but it actually activates different angles within their eyesight, right?
Yeah, just like a deer, when the deer puts its head down and sticks it back up, it's either trying to get you to move so they can see you better, or they're just trying to get a little bit different angle, or if you look at something and you kind of squint your eyes and you look away and you look at it again to see if you can see it clear, that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So
it actually looked something like a, it
was it was unmistakably on two legs, and I don't know how it ran that fast. I've never seen anything run that fast. I've seen bear before.
So when it ran, did it run on two legs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
My mind always goes to animals too. Anytime, not just when Doc's talking about it, when anybody's talking about it,
right?
I kind of, in the back of my mind, and I'm not going to lie to nobody. In the back of my mind, I'll go, "You dumb shit! That was a coyote, or that was a mountain lion, or whatever."
Right.
And I'm not trying to insult anybody or call bullshit. That's where my mind goes as an outdoorsman, and being kind of on the fence of everything, So
yeah.
Every picture I've seen of Bigfoot's been blurry, so I don't know if Bigfoot's actually blurry or everybody's got a shitty camera.
Yeah,
so.
well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't think to. I mean, it was so quick. I mean, it was so fast. It happened so fast. That.
Yeah.
So do you think there was like I don't want to say a family, but like dominant male and dominant female, and it had offspring? Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Yeah, I think so.
Or was it just a big one and a small one, or whatever?
Like me and Zane.
The one I saw was big, very big. It was about 8 or 9 foot tall. Because it passed under a tree branch that I went out the next day after that to measure just how big this thing actually was. Because that is initially what caught my attention, was how big this thing was. Because my initial thought, I'm like, who in the hell is out here running down the road in the middle of the night? And then it passed on that tree branch, and I was like, this is not a person, whatever this is, and so I measured it, and it was about 8 or 9 foot tall. Came out to be anyway. And then I think there was a family of them living out there, and I don't know. I think that they didn't stay there year round. I thought maybe that they might migrate, that they might be there at certain times during the year, because it always seemed like they were there and activity would pick up around late May, early June, and like the activity would be there between late May, early June, and then into July, and then around August the activity would fall off after that.
Yep. And I'm totally not discrediting what you're saying, but again, in my mind, I'm not saying Bigfoot isn't real either, but in my mind, that still speaks to bears, especially, right?
Their patterns and their habits and
they hibernate winter months.
Well, yeah. Was there mountains nearby? Was it just all trees, all forest area, or what kind of landscape was it?
It was kind of a bit of both. It was heavy forest, and then there would be patches of like fields, fields, and but it was for the most part it was very heavily forested, and there I did some research after my encounter and found out that it was actually a hot spot for Bigfoot sightings, and there was actually a road that was named after. It was called Booger Ridge Road, and it was actually named after the sightings that had taken place there. Because in the South, they're not known as Bigfoot. They're known as wood boogers, or boogers is what they call them here in the South. And so if you see a road that it's called like Booger Hill or Booger Valley or Booger whatever, that's what they were named after. They were named after the what they call the wood boogers, which is Bigfoot.
Around here we call acorns wood boogers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and all that activity could be different times a year. Is just like an animal getting, when they get a lot of snow up atop a mountain, they get pushed down to the bottom. Obviously, when the snow goes away, then they want to go to the top of the mountain to be away from any kind of danger or trouble.
Yeah.
So, just like a deer's migration and deer's habits and where they live at certain times a year and whatever else. So
yeah.
Yep.
The only thing I can do is tell you what I saw, and you make what of it what you will, but I'm pretty sure that what I saw, I don't think it was a bear. I've come actually face to face with bears several times, and what I saw that night, it moved too fast on two legs, and for it to be a bear, I don't think so. I think what I saw, the only thing that makes sense to me is that I saw a Bigfoot. And that's the only thing that matches like in the description of what I did see. And it was so brief and so quick and such a fast encounter that, I mean, maybe I was mistaken, but I don't think so. Like
when you went and investigated it, did you see any signs on the ground anywhere of rooting? In other words, like where the ground was tore up, or what I
mean? Behind that bush, which is where I think it was standing. Yeah, there was like trampled down grass, and
I'm speaking more to like it looked like something like pawed away at the ground type of thing.
Scratch the ground.
No.
Well, and the reason I ask is that's been reported not only with bears, but that's also been kind of a common report with Bigfoot sightings as well.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything like that. I seen where the grass had been pressed down, where something had been standing there, and then like I said, what caught my attention was something snapped a massive branch, and it was like crack, and I'm like, what the hell? I turn around, this thing is running out from behind the bush, So I went back there. Yeah, I found the branch that had snapped, and
Okay.
it was pretty massive branch.
Okay.
It wasn't off the bush. There was actually a tree back there that that it had snapped that branch off of, and
Okay.
I found that.
Okay.
I found that. I found where it had been like what it looked like it had been hung back there. You know, it had been sitting back there, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Back on the topic of shadow people. So where I was going to go with this, I guess, was I wanted to circle back to the kind of the topic we started on, shadow people, and
yeah,
there's actually a documentary. I think it's on Hulu. I'll have to double check. It's actually about the Hat Man, and I thought of it after we got talking about it. It actually provides some pretty decent context to what different people have experienced. And even in watching that documentary, there's some people on there where you're just like, yeah, okay, you know what I mean? But then there's some people that are very genuine and very decisive in what they're telling you. So Zane, you ever been in the woods and been walking along and just caught like a shadow out of the corner of your eye? You look and there's nothing there.
Yeah, never
had that happen. Yeah, you ever had that happen in your house?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, not that I can recall, but
yeah. I mean,
what's the back up here? What the deal with the Hat Man? What is the myth behind that?
Is so the Hat Man, the Hat Man is like, so it's a widely experienced thing, and it's kind of like, like Bigfoot or aliens or whatever. So many people have experienced the same exact identical thing, and a lot of people that experience it will describe it in depth, great detail, not even having known other people have seen the same thing, right? And basically, a lot of times it happens to people when they are laying in bed at night.
Yeah, and usually has something to do with sleep paralysis as well.
Yeah, so like you'll be laying in bed, and it can start like merging into your bedroom, like around the corner kind of thing, and it's just a tall black figure of a man with like a flat brim Quaker style hat, right? No features really, no face, no nothing, just a black dark shadow person standing there.
Is there a myth or a story to, because it seems like a lot of people experience the same thing, the same hat, whatever. Is there any kind of myth behind that or any kind of story?
No. I don't think there really is, and I think that's where the name Hat Man just kind of came from, because people don't really know what to attribute it to, No. But people all over the world experience the same exact entity, so to speak. Yeah. And for me, it's something that is plausible, considering I haven't seen the Hat Man, obviously, but what keeps me open minded, I guess, in my mind is what I saw, in the woods. And obviously, I think JR's story that he shared was pretty damn believable. After I might not have believed it right away, but after a while, it started being like, wow,
Yeah. The way you have to look at it really is that you have hundreds of people that are reporting the same thing, the same entity. They've reported as a shadow person that is wearing a hat, and and they all report the same thing. The reports are all the same.
Yep.
And maybe 50% of those are sleep paralysis and they just are hallucinating. But the other 50%, they are seeing something and they're reporting it, and if one of those people are right about what they saw, then we have a discussion on our hands on what that is.
In my mind, where I go with it, even though I thought portions of that documentary were really believable, as far as the Hat Man itself is concerned, I feel like it might have something to do with a level of consciousness where you're like half in and half out. Not necessarily sleep paralysis, but
it's your self-conscious doing it.
Well, like a different level of consciousness where you're more susceptible to observing certain things. Or
well, then why would they all be reporting the same thing?
I'm not saying they're not seeing it, and I'm not saying that it's not real. What I'm saying is there's, when you're relaxed in bed and you're clear-minded, and your chemicals in your body start flowing. I'm not even saying it's a dream or hallucination. What I'm saying is at that point in time, I think maybe your mind is the most able to experience that, right?
Right.
Well, and that's why I asked if there's a myth behind it, because it just seems like so many people have seen this, and how does everyone's mind in that certain state of mind that you're talking about, Luke? Why would they see that same figure?
Yeah,
that's my question: is why is it this particular?
It's no different than when you hear like, almost everybody that has done the drug DMT, the hallucinogen, they all experience very, very similar beings and experiences. I think it's in my opinion, I think it's owed to that. Like, I think when you're half in, half out kind of thing, I think that's a real thing. I just
does it trigger everyone's same part of their brain and the same chemical?
That's what I mean. Yeah. So, I mean, you have little kids that are drawing pictures of this thing.
Yeah.
That have never heard the story before. I mean,
it's
the guy standing in their room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To my knowledge, now, it's been a long time since I saw the documentary, but I don't think there's. Doc, do you know if there's been cases of any sort of contact or anything? I think it's literally just like lurking, right?
Usually, yeah, right in the doorway or at the foot of the bed, and then,
yeah.
But usually, when it comes to the Hat Man, what they're talking about is the people that are experiencing the Hat Man, what they report is something very negative, like a very negative feeling, from this entity, and I think
like straight terror, heavy feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and but like I said, if they're all reporting the same thing, maybe 50% of them, because I think there was a study done that proved that 50% of all eyewitness testimony is just mistaken identity or whatever, but
bullshit. Yep.
Bullshit, pretty much. Yeah, but the other 50% is legitimate. And if these people are experiencing this, and if just one of them is credible, then we have a real discussion to have here. You know,
I absolutely, in my mind, I absolutely think it's plausible. Where it comes from and what it is, I can't attest to that, obviously, but I always, in that instance, I come back to like little kids that have experienced it and drawn pictures of it.
Yeah.
And don't even know, you know what I mean? And,
yeah. That in and of itself is very interesting. That the fact that kids are drawing pictures of this thing, what it is, where it comes from, we don't know, but we do know that there is a phenomenon happening here. and kids are drawing pictures of that, drawing pictures of it, so that is very, very interesting.
See, I had seen this documentary, I don't know, some time ago, and I never even attributed that to being like shadow people, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it never even crossed my mind, that what I had experienced before might have been a shadow person, so to speak, or whatever. But yeah, totally plausible in my mind.
What do you think of that, Zane?
I'm still trying to comprehend everything. My mind goes kind of a different direction than your guys's. I think a little bit as far as maybe getting a little more in depth on why and what it actually is supposed to symbolize. Going back to the hat man.
Yeah.
That's where my mind kind of goes. Is it kind of goes from fishing. I'm always asking questions and trying to learn. So I always ask why all the time. Well, why is this and why is that? So trying to comprehend why these figures would be there, what causes these figures. That's where my mind goes. Rather than
and you think of like ghosts. You can usually kind of attribute a reason why they're there, or whatever it was that I experienced down by the river south of Moorhead. I mean, that I attributed that to, like, a lot of people have died in that area.
Well, that's what a lot of people contributed to.
Right. But this Hat Man thing is, as far-reaching as it is. I think you're right. I don't know of any theories as to why. Right. I mean,
I'm not calling bullshit on it. I'm not calling bullshit on it.
No. Like, what does it mean? Why is it there? What's, you know what I mean?
Right. And that's where my mind goes, of going, well, yeah, everyone has seen it. Now, why hasn't anybody trying to figure out why?
Yeah. What is this thing that people
have you heard any
seeing?
theories on that, Doc?
My theories, I think when it comes to the Hat Man, I think that it comes from like the spiritual world, I think. And as to what it is, I have no idea, because it shows up in so many different scenarios, and it shows up to so many different people for different reasons. What I do know is that just about every single person who's experienced this thing is that it's negative. It feels negative to them. So what it is, I have absolutely no idea. And why it shows up, because it never seems to do any harm. It just seems to kind of just stand there at your doorway.
Scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, scare the hell out of you. And to my knowledge, it's never said anything. It's never never said anything. It has never said what it is or what it's there for. It's never really identified itself to anybody. So but what I do know about it is that everyone that has experienced it has described it as being very negative and just a negative influence. They just terrified out of their minds, whenever they see it.
Yeah, and that's that friend of ours that I was talking about earlier, when he experienced it, that was the only real thing he chalked it up to. Is he said it was when it was there, it was kind of like he said it was kind of like the ringleader of all the bullshit that was going on, kind of thing. And whenever that thing showed up or whatever, he knew there was going to be an elevation in whatever he was experiencing, right?
My theory is that whatever shadow people are, or wherever they come from, or this Hat Man, I think from all the reports I've ever read, it is the ringleader of all of it. It's the leader, of all of it, and
could it be something as far as a certain levels of how would I say it, spiritual energy?
Yeah.
Is there certain levels, and that's when this particular figure shows up with his clan members or whatever the hell you want to call it? I mean, I'm just really curious about this. I'd actually like somebody to comment on this, if they know anything about it, or
I'd actually straight up like to interview somebody. If any of our viewers have any experience in this matter, I'd love to.
That's my whole take on all this tonight is that hat man. Why is everyone seeing it? What is the symbol behind it?
And I, JR's take on it was that it was, kind of the devil himself kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I could probably get him on here to talk about it, but honestly, it would probably put him in a bad place because whenever he gets to talking about it, it takes him kind of to that bad place and he starts ranting and raving about it again. And
yeah.
I've had like casual just conversations where it came up talking to him and it just sends him down a rabbit hole again. And, and then he'll like, well, I don't want to talk about this no more. Let's talk about something else kind of thing, So, it's definitely something that I think is definitely plausible in my mind. In my opinion, I feel like shadow people are some sort of disembodied ghost or something, to that effect.
Down in the comments, anyone who's listening, please do, if you've had an experience with the shadow people or the Hat Man, please do put a comment down below, what you think they are or what you think the Hat Man is. Please do let us know, because we're just a couple of rednecks trying to figure it out. Yeah, definitely please do.
And to that extent too, if you think it's bullshit and you have a scientific explanation, what do you got?
Yeah.
Let's break it completely down of going, okay, if you got a comment and or have this person on or this person on, we can call bullshit on this person, or just give us some proof, give us something, or give it even a theory. I take a theory at this moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not doubting anybody on it at all. I'm really curious of what the theory is behind this.
And as far as the Hat Man, it like I say, it typically, from what I understand, tends to happen when people are at rest, kind of half with it. Whereas shadow people are, full on people alert. And even my experience, I was about as alert as you can get. I was walking out of the woods in the dark, trying not to knock the shit out of myself on branches and stuff, and full alert.
So when they are seeing this Hat Man, it's normally when they're half asleep. Am I gathering that correctly?
Yes, yeah. Usually it's when and they usually experience some sort of what do you call it? Sleep paralysis. Usually when they can't speak, they can't move or whatever,
but they're awake.
And they can see, and they're seeing this thing either in the doorway or at the foot of the bed, and
corner of the room,
Okay, that's a good place to start because that explains a little bit,
right?
Of it only seen it at that particular time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just putting the pieces together of why. What is it with that figure? Did that figure have something in common with you at that moment, as far as maybe?
And if it, and if it is something that your body is chemically creating in your vision, right? Why is it that everybody sees the same thing?
Exactly. That's that's my point. Is why is everybody seeing a Hat Man?
That's why I said it's got to be the same part of the brain, same chemical, same alignment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know much about the human brain or nothing like that, but I know.
Oh, we know.
chemicals in your brain can really fuck you up or lack thereof.
Yeah. Right.
Coming from someone very close to me having depression, learning all about the brain and how the chemicals work.
And it is
exactly.
Yeah, it is scientifically proven that when you experience sleep paralysis, you do have hallucinations. But why is everyone seeing the same thing? A being with a hat on. Why is everyone? Because you would think that people would see different stuff, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have reported to see a shadow being with a hat on.
I think, the only conclusion I can draw in my mind as far as that regard would be, so DMT, the most powerful hallucinogenic in the world, right, is actually produced in small portions inside of your body, right?
Yes.
And at night, and when you're at rest, is when your body replenishes itself and is producing, not only testosterone, but all the other chemicals that your body needs to run and function and everything. So maybe, and again, going back to saying that, a lot of people that do DMT and trip and whatever experience the same realm, the same entities, the same, you know what I mean? Yes. Almost all of them, as a matter of fact, from my understanding.
Well, that's where it's got to stem from then.
Maybe it's something like an organic microdose of DMT,
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes in, and maybe that's horse shit. I don't know, but
that's where mine went to right away, or somehow that particular spirit or whatever relates to your condition or whatever. But I think it's more of a chemical in your brain that, and that's just my opinion. I mean,
right. But my peel apart from that, like I said, is if he's considered like one of the shadow people, right? So quote unquote, right? Like, I've seen one and I was fully alert and I didn't have any bullshit in my system and I didn't, you know what I mean?
That wasn't the hat man. The hat.
No, there was no hat. I would like to clarify, there was no hat on this thing,
So it sounds like there's almost two different shadow people. There's the hat man and then the regular shadow people.
Yeah. So shadow people tend to be experienced at any given point in time. Like you could be sitting there right now doing this podcast and see like someone walk by the corner of your eye, but there's nobody there and there's nobody else in the house. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They're actually, I think they're actually more reported during the daylight, actually.
Yep.
During daylight, during daylight hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Shadow people.
Which mine was at night, and it was like a full moon lit. It was probably.
It's kind of funny because not to interrupt you, but when you've seen that's the same conditions where Doc's seen Bigfoot too.
Yeah.
Moonlight,
right?
Full moon.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily full moon, but it was well moonlit, and it was late September, early October, and I mean, it was lit enough that I could see to walk out of the woods, but it was definitely dark.
Did you ever feel threatened?
No, not at all. Not at all. I was obviously scared because I didn't know. I mean, what to chalk it up to? Obviously, I mean, I knew it wasn't a deer, and whatever it was fucking fast, obviously.
Yeah. Did you ever think to shoot it or?
No, it passed me so fast, 20 yards to my left, that I wouldn't have even had a shot. I mean, you wouldn't have even had time to think about it. And walking to my right around the tree, I mean, it was more or less like, what is this thing? Because obviously, if it was a deer, right, in your logical mind, it's past dark. You can't shoot deer past dark. It's against the law. So I mean that. Yeah. In my mind, if you get to that point, you're trying to defend yourself. But
could you see through it, or was it just no? It was that dark.
It was pitch. It was like watching a bed. It was like watching a bed sheet straight line through the woods, kind of flowing, but really fast. I mean, if I had to guess how fast it was moving, I would say 30, 40 miles an hour through thick, heavily wooded area. And And again, like I say, when it passed me on the left, it looked like a thick, black, flowing bed sheet almost, is the only way I can think of to describe it. And it went behind the tree and disappeared. So you walk to the right of the tree to try to get a better look at it, and it does this number. You can actually see like, so I mean, you can even make out like the hand, like the arms, kind of like,
You're right. Got a ghost playing fucking peekaboo with me out in the woods. This is
yeah,
awesome.
pretty much. That's pretty much exactly. Yeah. I mean, it scared the shit out of me. It scared the shit out of me, but I didn't feel threatened. I was just fucking scared. Yeah. I didn't know what it was, obviously, and
you felt nothing but fear. Yeah.
I hopped on my Lamborghinis and got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I would have been high stepping it back to the pickup too.
Yeah. So, but it takes me back again to, like I say, I was at a heightened sense of alertness because of the conditions I was walking out in.
Right.
And obviously, trying to be alert for animals or anything you might run into or anything of that nature. So, definitely two opposite ends of the spectrum compared to like something like a Hat Man or things like that. So
yeah. And we already discussed that you noticed before that an absence of animal activity.
I didn't notice it before it happened. It was more like I'm walking along, this thing happened, and then it was dead silent in the woods, and that's when I noticed the profound silence.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, no frogs, no crickets, no nothing. I mean, it was still early enough at night that it was, you might even hear a bird crow or, here or there or whatever, but absolute silence.
Okay. Yeah, that the reason I asked that is we're going to get into this on a future Midnight Chronicles episode. But an absence of animal activity and sound is often reported when it comes to Dogman encounters.
Okay. Sure.
And Bigfoot too. But yeah, it's usually, the eyewitness notices the absence of even crickets, like down to cricket level, where they shut up, and they go quiet, and then they have a Dogman encounter or they have a Bigfoot encounter. So that's why I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, and I'm quite aware of Bigfoot, obviously. I mean, I've never seen one that I can attribute, to being Bigfoot, I don't think, but and I didn't even know what a Dogman was until we had talked last week a little bit and covered the topic. I don't even know of anybody around here that's ever experienced something like that. So, not that it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's totally new to me.
Goddamn cold for any creature like that to live up here.
Right. No, it's just not something I was familiar with before you had discussed it. So, I'm kind of interested to learn more on that topic when we get into it.
Well, we have another show coming up later on, and we'll talk more in depth about the Dogman subject. That is something that I have interest in. That is something that I've been studying, and I might have a guest that might come on the show with us to speak about her encounter with one here in Tennessee. But
okay.
That'd be awesome. I was hoping you would. That's the next episode, because I've never heard of him either until you brought him up last week. And if you could have somebody on who's had experience with one to go in more detail about what they are and where they supposedly came from and everything else would be great.
Yeah. And this, and this is interesting to me because, of all paranormal things that I've known about or discussed or talked about, or I mean, in my mind, the plausibility of aliens are higher than a dog man, right? Not that just off the cuff, because it's not something I'm familiar with. It's not something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm
Well, look,
kind of interested
look
in
like in Louisiana, look how many different, quote unquote monsters and stuff they have down there that they talk about.
Well, they have
right.
they have what's called the rougarou, which
Yeah, I've
is
heard of that.
the French werewolf, which is what a dog man is.
Sure.
Yep,
So
I've heard of the Rougarou, yeah, or however you say it.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm familiar with the term werewolf, obviously. I mean that, I've never put much credence in it myself, but I'm definitely open minded to the topic. I guess I'd like to learn some more about it and maybe hear about somebody's experience.
Yeah, we'll talk about Dogman next show. So
perfect.
And we're gonna have a.
I bet it'd be a hit with the ladies.
I'm sure. I hope so. I bet, yeah, for all three of us.
Yeah.
But but returning to the topic at hand, which is the shadow people and the Hat Man.
Yeah.
We're gonna end the show pretty soon, actually. But I want to get your votes. So 10 out of 10 being completely plausible and real. 1 out of 10 being absolutely not real. Let's get your votes. We'll start with Zane. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I think they're real. Yep, I think there's something to it.
So
I've never experienced it, but I've seen enough on it and heard enough about it, and I know Luke ain't gonna bullshit me on it, so I give it a 10.
Okay, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, having experienced something that I can only attribute to that, I would say absolutely 10 out of 10. I believe in shadow people, and with regard to the Hat Man, I mean, that seems to coincide and be part of that, or in some way, shape, or form, right? And I would say, as far as Hat Man, I'm 8 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, me, where I sit with with it, shadow people, I'd give about a 10 out of 10, and then the Hat Man, I give probably about an 8 out of 10, like you said. I mean, because
I think the Hat Man, there has to be
we
some
need
sort of a
to learn
logical
more
explanation.
about it. I think we just need to learn more about it.
I think there has to be a logical explanation to the Hat Man, because it's.
I'm not even going to vote on that, because in simple fact, I need to hear the theory. That's where my dumbass mind goes to, is I need to hear the theory behind it. Why is it this particular figure?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's part of the mystique with it. I don't think anybody has a particular why,
No, and I understand that. It drive me nuts trying to figure it out, because that's just how my dumbass works.
I mean, you're already nuts, so don't drive yourself nuts.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, the Hat Man, there has to be something with that, because there has to be a reason that somebody that people all over the world are seeing the same thing, and they report the same thing every single, like, if it was like a simple hallucination, then you would think that there would be different hallucinations, but no, everyone is seeing the same thing. That makes it a phenomenon.
And the only thing I can attribute it to is like I say, in my mind, it has to do something with sleep science, first and foremost, and then second of all, the chemicals your body produce at that point in time, perhaps they're similar to like I say, like DMT, so everybody does see the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. That makes it a phenomenon.
Right.
If multiple people are seeing the same thing, and they're reporting the same experience, that makes it a phenomenon, in which I think grants it further study and further looking into.
Yeah.
Which we will do here at the Midnight Chronicles. So if you have encountered the Hat Man or any shadow people or anything like that, please do comment down below and let us know what you've experienced. Let us know. And if you have, even if you haven't, let us know down below what you think of this phenomenon, because it is a phenomenon. So
I'd really like to read people's comments and theories, and that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, even if we could find somebody to interview on the topic, I'd like to get somebody's. I have our friend JR's instance, but I as far as the Hat Man goes, I'd like to get like a firsthand account from somebody if anybody has one. So
okay, we'll invite him down below.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, comment down below if you have experience with shadow people and the Hat Man, and we'd love to talk to you. Yeah.
I comment a lot.
Yeah, comment. Yeah, put like a billion likes on that too as well.
Yeah, right.
All right, guys. Well, this has been an episode of the Midnight Chronicles. Like I said, these are my new co-hosts, Luke and Zane. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves. I didn't have you guys do that at the beginning of the show, but introduce yourselves to the audience.
Yeah, I'm Luke. Bumped into Doc throughout the through the music business, and we seem to have some of the similar interests, and yeah, we both love talking and discussing and debating things. So
yep.
I'm Zane. I've been friends with Luke for 20 years, Luke? Over 20 years?
Yeah, all of that.
Over 20 years now. Yeah. And we just kind of talk about doing a podcast about whatever, just because we're a couple dumbasses. And he came up with the idea, hey, I'll get a hold of Doc. I know him through the music, and I don't know how it happened, but we got on a 3-way call, like your mom gets on 3-ways. And we talked for almost 3 hours that night, and this got brought up, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not a true believer. I'm more of a prove it to me, because I'm curious, very
skeptic,
curious, very skeptic, and it's interesting. And we talked about doing the podcast. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. It sounds fun, and it was fun.
Yeah,
it was
fun. And I look forward to future stuff too. I mean, and like I say, some of this stuff I think we're doing it justice by being objective, and
yeah.
So
as you should be.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I don't want to just agree with everybody just to be on the podcast. I'm going to ask questions, and
same.
If I don't think it's true, I might just keep it to myself, because I don't want to insult Luke, yourself, or Doc, or anybody. But I'll bluntly ask you or tell you to show me something, prove it to me.
It's interesting to discuss, and
especially with three different personalities and three different views on it.
Yeah. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the Midnight Chronicles. This is the new format, and I'm just very excited to continue on with this podcast with my new co-hosts, and we'll see you guys back here again next.
Later, Gators.
Yeah, later, Gator. Yeah. I don't know when we're gonna have another show out, but until then,
we're gonna have it every 2 weeks, like we talked about, or if it goes
it'd be every 2 weeks. So, this is gonna air at the beginning of October. So, to kick off spooky season, So
2 weeks from the airing of this podcast, we'll be right back at you.
Yeah, and we will. Until then, guys, good night.